Good morning or good afternoon, depending on which time zone you are. You are looking at this recording of a presentation that should be replaced by a live presentation on the day of the conference. If you are looking at this, it is possible that something has happened to me, so look for me. This talk is about DBdeployer. And the community edition is because this is going to be talking about features that were suggested or implemented by the community. If you don't know me, my name is Giuseppe Maxia. I'm known as the data charmer. I work with VMware. I have been working with databases for a long time, and I've been also member of MySQL community for several years. I have a Twitter account, Data Charmer, where you can reach me. What is DBdeployer? It's a command line tool which has no dependencies. It's a single binaries per operating system. The interface is similar to Git or Docker, runs single database, replication, group replication, and more. We are going to see in detail later. It has an integrated help, and it is easy to extend. You can find it on GitHub, github.com, datacharmer DBdeployer. This tool was born about 15 years ago as MySQL Sandbox, written in Perl, and recently has been rewritten in Go to have more flexibility. The features: you can create isolated sandboxes, meaning that you can have several databases at once in the same machine. You can have a single sandbox or a replication sandbox or group replication, then MySQL Cluster, Percona XtraDB cluster. And DBdeployer creates a set of customized scripts for each sandbox. There are several features that were created because somebody asked for it, or somebody suggested, or because talking with somebody, I had the idea of implementing something. So this happens during talks, either online or in person. During talks at a conference, or interaction with Slack, or somebody submits an issue on GitHub, or there is a discussion, DB ask me anything that has been happening this year and is quite useful. Main operation of DBdeployer. The first one is init. Init is an operation that creates the environment or prepares the environment for DBdeployer. So prepares a binaries directory, downloads the latest MySQL tarballs, and downloads the bash completion file. Once you run this command, you are ready to start operations. This is an example of what happens during this operation. You run DBdeployer init, and you see that it's creating the Sandbox binary and Sandbox home. Then is downloading the latest MySQL tarball, unpacks the tarball, and also prepares the bash completion files. Another operation is downloads. You can run DBdeployer downloads list, and you see the list of files, tarballs that are available through DBdeployer. You can do that also manually, but DBdeployer makes it easier for you to do this operation. Then you can run downloads, get by version, and the version, and you get the file in your computer. For example, here you can see a similar operation, DBdeployer downloads get unpack, and the name of the file, and then it will download it and unpack it directly. Or you can first download and then unpack. This is useful if you have downloaded through some other means, not through DBdeployer. When you unpack, then your tarball is ready for further operation with DBdeployer. One of such operations is deploy single, where you create a single sandbox with a database. Here is an example, DBdeployer deploy single 5.7 or DBdeployer deploy single 8.0. It will create a single sandbox. Deploy replication is similar, but it will create one master and two slaves. Here is an example. The concurrent option will make the deployment happen in parallel. So every node will be deployed at the same time, and it will be a much faster operation. This, you see that is deploying both 8.0 and 5.7 in the same machine. And this shows you that DBdeployer is creating sandboxes that are independent from each other. In this case, we have 6 databases that are running independently. Group replication is similar. It's a kind of a replication which uses the topology equals group. When you run this, you will see that DBdeployer creates a group replication with 3 nodes, and by default, these are all primaries. You can create also a single primary if you add another option. Sandboxes shows which sandboxes you have installed. And this is an example. DBdeployer sandboxes -- full info. And you see the name of the sandbox, the type, the version, the ports that are used, how many nodes, and when it was created. Usage. Once you create a single sandbox, inside the sandbox you will find several scripts that are customized for that sandbox. This allows you to run operations without need to remember any options or which port or which directory they need to use. So, for example, the most important one is use, that allows you to run the MySQL client, or start and restart, stop, and status, that allow you to run the basic operations. You have also other scripts like show log that allows you to look at the error log without knowing where it is, and it will just show it to you. When you have a replication sandbox or any other multiple sandbox, you have several more files. So in addition to the files that we have seen before that are in each single sandbox within the multiple sandbox, you have also more scripts like check slaves, clear all, start all, stop all, and so on. And here I have M for master, S1 and S2 for slave 1 and slave 2, or depending on the topology, you have N1, N2, N2, N3, node 1, node 2, node 2, node 3. Also status all, use all masters, use all slaves, depending on the topology, this will give different results. When you are done with the sandbox, you can delete it. So for example, this command that you see will delete all the sandboxes in parallel and will not ask for confirmation. So let's see some of the features that were added because somebody in the community requested it. One is DBdeployer init. So before this command, you had to follow a lot of precise instructions to start the environment. And eventually, after discussing with some users, I decided to implement this feature because it makes usage by a beginner much easier. DBdeployer update, this also was a request during a conference. It will update automatically the DBdeployer executable if there is a newer version available in GitHub. DBdeployer use will use the latest deployed sandbox without need to specify the name of that sandbox. Also, this was suggested by a user during a conference. Delete binaries, this was asked in Slack. It's a command similar to delete. Instead of deleting a sandbox, it will delete an expanded tarball. Download, get, unpack. This is a feature for lazy people who wanted to have a single command to get a particular file and unpack it with the same command. NDB deployment. This one deploys a MySQL cluster. This was asked by several people in the MySQL company. And it will deploy a MySQL cluster. And also during when I created this feature, I also made in such a way that we can replicate between clusters. So it's very useful for testing. Percona XtraDB cluster, similar to NDB. It was developed in coordination with Percona, and it was quite a successful cooperation. TiDB deployment deploys a TiDB single instance database. You know, TiDB is a distributed database, but it also has a simple binary that allows you to run a test instance, and this is what you can have with DBdeployer. Custom replication, you can replicate between clusters, for example, between two group replication, between two master-slave replication, or between single sandboxes. There are many combinations. Clone, this is a feature that was introduced in MySQL 8.0, and several people asked me to put it directly into the DBdeployer so you could test it in your sandboxes. Set unset default sandbox is a feature that allows you to define sandbox as default, and then you can run any operation with that default sandbox without need to access the path for that sandbox. Custom roles are roles that can be created during deployment and assigned to user. This only works for MySQL 8.0. Custom master options. This was asked in issue in GitHub. Define the flexible replication option during deployment. And a recent one was this send kill with option destroy. This was requested because the user wanted to simulate a server crash, and the regular commands for Sandbox don't do this kind of abrupt stop, but they try to run the stop gracefully. And this is useful, but in case when you want to simulate cluster management, you need to have a command that works similarly to a server crash. As a side effect, this command also allows faster delete operations. Before, when you were deleting, you had to wait until the regular stop happened to the database. But since we are going to delete it, it doesn't make sense to wait. So we use the send, kill, destroy also for delete operations. Let's have a quick demo to see how this thing works. We have the DBdeployer and a computer. Actually, this is a Docker container that does not have anything. So the first thing we do DBdeployer update. So we get the latest version, and this was connected to GitHub, and now we have version 155. Before we had 154. So DBdeployer init. It's creating the directories, is downloading MySQL 8.0.21, the latest available. And now we see that we have 8.0.21 available. Deploy single 8.0. And here we have the situation. We have one sandbox available. It's single. There are 2 ports occupied. One is for the database and one is for the MySQL X server that is integrated in MySQL 8.0. So here is how we use it, or we can do DBdeployer use, and it will connect to the database all the same. So let's do a replication. Deploy replication 8.0 concurrent. sandboxes. And you see that we have two sandboxes with several ports occupied. This is single, so this is the two that we have seen before. And this is the replication where you have two ports for each node. So one master and two slaves, and 6 ports are occupied. You can run a test for every sandbox in the system, or you can run test replication for the nodes, for the sandboxes that are replication systems. So this is the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, you can reach me at Twitter, or you can reach me on Slack at MySQL community slack.com, or you can submit an issue at GitHub, Data Charmer, DBdeployer. Thank you.